Chapter 12, the novel Anxiety, Political and Social Critic. So, throughout the 20th century, novels served as powerful vehicles for political and the social critic exposing injustice, charging oppressing systems, and imagining alternative possibilities. While not all novels are explicitly political, even seemingly political works make ideological choices about whose stories matter and how society should be represented. The most effective political novels avoid simplistic propaganda and insisted using literal sophistication to make readers think critical about power, justice, and social organization. Literature's political power lies partly in how it works through narrative, character, and emotional engagement, and not just rational assumptions and imagine alternatives more effectively than abstract political theory because they engage hearts and imaginations, not just minds. Now let's move to novels as responses to war, totalitarianism, and social injustice. Wars inspired novels examining warfare, psychological causes, and war's absurdity from Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms to Hell's satirical Catch 22, the Holocaust generated works grappling with incomprehensible evil and survival like Elie Wiesel's Night and Primo levels if this is a man. The Vietnam War promoted novels, questioned American imperialism, and exposing war's brutal realities. From O'Brien's The Things They Carried to Philippe Cobato's A Rumor of War, totalitarian regimes inspired dystopian fiction warning of um, author, authoritarian dangers. Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World imagined features where governments control not just behavior but thought, language, and desire, while Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale specifically examined theocratic patriarchy. Now let's move to the case study Orwell's 1984 and dystopian warnings, total surveillance. The omniscient tells the screen and the thought police eliminate all privacy, making even private thoughts dangerous. Orwell warns how surveillance technology enables unprecedented control. Uh, you've watched it constantly in your home, at work, even in bathrooms. If though those have less surveillance, microphones and cameras monitor everything. This eliminates a private life, the space where you can be yourself, think freely, form authentic relationships. Uh, Language control, new speaker systematically narrows language to make distant literally unthinkable by controlling language. The party controls thought itself, showing language political dimensions. If words for freedom, equality, or justice do not exist, how do you think about these concepts? A bad is replaced by ungood. You've lost the ability to express degree. Everything is either good or ungood, no middle ground. Newspeak makes complex critical thinking impossible. Now let's move to historical manipulation. The party constantly rewrite history, making truth unknowable. Who control the past, control the future, demonstrates how authoritarian regimes manipulate collective memory to maintain power. Winston's job is literally rewriting historical documents to match current party positions. If the party said Oceania was at war with Erugia yesterday but is now at war with Estesia, Winston changes all records to show Oceania has always been at war with Estesia. Past becomes whatever the party says it is. Literature's role in activism and awakeness extends beyond individual novels to broader cultural conversations. Books like Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Jungle, and Silent Spring sparked social movements. 20th century novels continued this tradition, raising consciousness about racism, poverty, environmental destruction, and other injustice, helping readers develop empathy and political understanding. Now let's move to literature works politically by making abstract injustice concrete and personal. Statistics about poverty do not move people like stories about individual families losing homes. Abstract discussions of racism do not create empathy like experiencing racism through a character's eyes. Chapter 13, Critical Reading Skills Introduction. Becoming a sophisticated reader requires evolving specific analytical skills that transform passive consumption into active interpretation. These skills apply not just to literature, but to all forms of communication, making you a more discerning consumer and producer of meaning. Critical reading means questioning, analyzing, and thinking deeply rather than accepting texts as face value. Now let's go to say that it means recognizing that texts aren't transparent windows into reality, but constructed representations shaped by specific choices, perspectives, and ideologies. Now, let's go for close reading literary devices. Close reading means paying careful attention to specific textual details, word choice, center. Sentence structure, imagery patterns, and subtle meanings. Read slowly multiple times, annotating observations and questions. Notice what seems significant, unusual, or repeated. Consider why the author made specific choices. Close reading reveals how form and content work together to create meaning. For example, in the opening of Gatsby, in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Notice specific word choices, younger and more vulnerable, why both adjectives turning over in my mind, suggesting ongoing consideration, not simple acceptance. This opening establishes next reflective, self-aware narration. Now let's move to identifying literary devices. Recognizing techniques like metaphor, symbolism, irony, foreshadowing, and illusion. Understanding how these devices work helps You interpret their effects, ask not just what is this metaphor, but why use the metaphor or this metaphor here, and what does it add to meaning. Literary devices aren't oriental but functional, shaping how readers understand and experience the text. For instance, Fitzgerald's weather imagery in Gatsby isn't just descriptive. Hot weather accompanies tension and violence, suggesting how environment reflects and influences emotional states. Now let's move to analyzing character, narrative, voice. Examine how characters develop through actions, dialogue, and thoughts. Consider their motivations, conflicts, and changes over time. Analyze narrative voice. And the narrator is the narrator reliable? What does their perspective reveal or conceal? How does point of view shape meaning? Characters and narrators aren't real people, but textual constructions serving specific purposes. Nick and Gatsby is unreliable in interesting ways. He claims to be honest and non-judgmental, but clearly draws everyone. This gap between self-perception and actual behavior is meaningful, revealing how self-deception operates. Now let's move to contextual understanding. Situates texts within their historical, cultural, and biographical contexts under understanding when and where a text was written and by whom illuminates its meanings and concerns. However, avoid reducing texts to mere reflections of context. Literature also critics transforms and transcends its historical moment. Context informs interpretation but doesn't determine it. Gatsby reflects 1920s concerns but also speaks to timeless themes, understanding the jazz age enriches interpretation without exhausting the novelist's meanings. Now let's move to make connections and practice. Connect texts to other texts to broader themes and ideas and to your own experience and knowledge. And textual connections enrich interpretations. Personal connections make literature meaningful. Theoretical frameworks from biography, sociology, psychology, and other disciplines provide ethical tools. Freudian psychology eliminates unconscious motivations. Marxist theory reveals class dynamics. Feminist theory exposes gender ideologies. Now let's move to practice exercises. Regular practice develops these skills. Try selecting a single paragraph and analyzing every detail. Practicing identifying the same surface across different texts. Write close readings, focusing on specific elements like imagery or syntax. Discuss interpretations with peers, learning how others read differently, revise analysis to sharpen arguments and deepen insights. Now, I have to say that the first readings are never final. Return to texts, revise interpretations, refine arguments. Now let's move to chapter 14, writing about 20th century novel. Writing analytically about literature requires translating your insights into clear, persuasive arguments supposed, suppose, supported by textual evidence. Strong literary essays do not simply summarize plots or state opinions. They make interpretive claims and demonstrate their validity through close analysis. Developing effective writing skills takes practice, revision, and attention to craft. Like reading skills, writing skills develop through deliberate, repeated practice with feedback. Um, Now let's go to crafting thesis statement. Your thesis is your essay's central argument, a specific debatable claim about the text, meaning, technique, or significance. Avoid obvious observations, strong. These are focused enough to develop fully, but complex enough to require evidence and analysis. Example, in my dull way, Wolf uses big Ben's chimes to explore the tension between measured clock time and fluid psychological time, suggesting modern lives alienating temporal experience. This thesis is a specific focus on one element, Big Ben's chimes. Arguable, someone could disagree about the interpretation, complex, require sustained analysis to demonstrate and significant reveal something important about the novel using textual evidence. Support claims with specific quotations and examples from the text. Choose evidence strategically, not just any quote, but ones that clearly support your point. Introduce quotations with content, integrate them grammatically, and always analyze them. Never let quotes speak for themselves. Explain what they demonstrate and how they support your argument. For example, Wolf emphasizes time's duality through Big Ben's Chemmy's first warning medical, then the hour irrevocable, the word irrevocable suggests time. Uh, Finality, the movement, the word that consciousness cannot escape, while musical suggests how even measured time can have static experimental qualities. Now let's go to organization essays. Organization essays, structure essays with clear introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. Each paragraph should develop one main idea connected to your thesis. Use topic sentences to signal each paragraph's focus. Arrange paragraphs logically with smooth transitions, showing connections between ideas. Conclude by synthesizing insights rather than merely restating your introduction, developing your voice right with confidence and clarity. Avoid vague language, unnecessarily complexity, and the passive voice. Be precise with vocabulary and varied in sentence structure. Your voice should be formal but engaging, article but not dry, revise for clarity, coherence, and style. Reading aloud to catch awkward phrasing. So, what new understanding have you developed? What are the implications of your arguments? First drafts are always rough. Revision is where good writing emerges. Now let's move to sample essay prompts. Analyze how specific novel uses a narrative technique to explore consciousness and identity. Compare how two novels represent the same historical event or social issue. Examine how symbolism contributes to a novel's thematic concerns. Explore how a novel's structure reflects its meaning. Investigate how a post-colonial novel challenges colonial representations. Writing workshop activities. Practice writing these statements for different prompts, exchange drafts with pair for feedback, revise essays, focusing on specific elements like evidence use or paragraph coherence, study model essays, analyzing what makes them effective. The more you write and revise, the stronger your analytical writing becomes. Excellence requires practice. Now let's move to writing workshop activities. Practice writing thesis statement for different prompts. Exchange drafts with peer for feedback. Revise essays focusing on specific elements like evidence used on paragraph coherence. Study model essays analyzing what makes them effective. The more you write and revise, the stronger your analytical writing becomes. Now let's move to chapter 15, using technological and resources. Digital archives and online literary databases. Modern students have unprecedented access to literary resources. Digital archives like projects, Gutenberg, Google Books, and Hayati Trust provide free access to thousands of texts. Academic databases like GSTOR, MLA, International Bibliography, and Project Muse offer scholarly articles and criticism, literary catalogs, and inter-library loan systems connect you to resources worldwide. Learning to navigate these tools effectively is essential for research. When researching, use advanced search features to refine results, evaluate sources critically, who wrote them, for what audience, with what credentials. Prefer peer-reviewed academic sources over random websites. Take organized notes with full citation information to avoid plagiarism and make writing easier. Multimedia presentations and creative projects. Technological enables creative approaches to literary analysis beyond technical essays, create multimedia presentations combining text, images, audio, and video, design websites exploring novels, themes, or contexts, produce podcasts discussing literary interpretations, make video essays analyzing film adaptations. These projects develop digital literacy while keeping literary understanding. When creating multiple or multimedia projects, maintain ethical range or creative formats what require substantive interpretation and evidence. Consider your audience and purpose. Design for clarity and engagement. Use technology to enhance rather than replace critical thinking. Um Collaborative tools for group work. Platforms like Google Docs, Slack, and Microsoft Teams that facilitate collaboration, share documents, provide feedback, and coordinate schedules efficiently. Collaborative annotation tools like Hypothesis enable group close reading, discussion, uh, boards, extended classrooms, conversations. These tools make working together easier while developing professional collaboration skills, valuable beyond academic contexts. Now let's move to recommended resources, ethical technology use. Beyond assigned texts, explore literary criticism, author biographies, historical studies, and theoretical works. Trusted resources include the Norton Anthology of English, the Cambridge uh, companion series, author-specific journals, and literary magazines follow contemporary criticism in publications like the New York Review of Books or the London Reviews of Books. Contemporary criticism connecting classics to current concerns. Now let's go to ethical technology use. Use technology responsibly. Cite resources properly, avoiding plagiarism. Respect copyright when using images or quotes. Be thoughtful about privacy when sharing work online. Use AI tools ethically as aids for brainstorming or revision, not as replacements for your own thinking and writing. Remember that genuine learning requires genuine intellectual engagement. Technological should enhance, not replace your thinking. Shortcuts that avoid intellectual work prevent the learning that's the actual goal of education. Now let's go for conclusion, the enduring legacy of the 20th century novel. As we conclude this exploration of 20th century literature, we recognize that these novels remain vitally relevant to understanding our contemporary world, the centuries, innovations in forms and content continue influencing how stories are told across all media, from literary fiction to film, television, and digital narratives. The concern these novels address identity, alienation, justice, power, meaning remain central to human experience. Reading them equips us with frameworks for understanding our own historical moment and imagining alternative features or futures. The 20th century may be over, but its literature continues speaking to us, offering insights into perennial human concerns and specific contemporary challenges. Literary innovation, cultural diversity, literary innovation. Technical pioneered by 20th century writers, stream of consciousness, non-linear narrative, metafiction, magical realism have become standard tools available to all storytellers, fundamentally expanding narrative possibilities. Cultural diversity, the centuries' gradual inclusion of previously marginalized voices enriched literature immeasurably, proving that the great art emerges from all cultures and communities when given opportunity and recognition. The diversification of literature, including women, people of color, post-colonial writers, LGBTQs, voices, working class perspectives, didn't just add variety but fundamentally enriched literature's capacity to represent a human experience comprehensively. Now let's move to universal humanity, critical consciousness. Despite addressing specific historical contexts, these novels reveal shared human experiences, emotions, and struggles that transcend particular times and places, connecting us across differences. Critical consciousness, these novels taught readers to question authority, recognizing ideology, and think critically about power and representation, skills essential for engaging citizenship in democratic societies. Literature trains critical thinking by requiring you to analyze how narrative works, question what you are told, recognize multiple perspectives, and understanding how power shapes representation. These are essential democratic capacities. criticize citizens and democracies must think critically about political rhetoric, uh, media representations, and the claim to truth. Now let's go to social critic and psychological depth. Novels examination of class, race, gender, colonialism, and justice contribute to social progress by raising awareness, fostering empathy, and imagining more just social arrangements. Psychological depth literature's exploration of consciousness, trauma, memory, and identity deepened our understanding of what it means to be human, validating interior experience and psychological complexity. 20th century literature looked and took interior interior experience as seriously as external action, insisting that consciousness itself is significant and worthy of representation. This validated subjective experience, your thoughts, feelings, memories matter. Interior life has meaning and complexity. Now let's move to your continued journey with literature. This course provides a foundation, but your literary education shouldn't end here. Continue exploring diverse voices, genres, and periods. Read contemporary fiction, engaging with current issues. Challenge yourself with different unfamiliar texts. Join reading groups to discuss interpretations, write about what you need. Most importantly, allow literature to change you, to expand your empathy, complicate your understanding, and enrich your experience of being human. Literature's greatest value isn't knowledge accumulation, but transformation, how it changes how you think, feel, and understand the world and yourself. Now let's go to what have we learned, how historical forces shape literary expression, measure movements and their innovations, critical reading and analytical writing skills, the power of diverse perspectives, literature's social and political dimensions, how novels explore human consciousness and experience. You've seen how literature represents interior life, psychological complexity, trauma, memory, and the subjective dimensions of experience that other forms of knowledge production can capture as effectively. Now let's move to why it matters today. Understanding cultural contexts and change, developing empathy across differences, critical thinking about media and narrative, recognizing ideology and the power structures, appreciating aesthetic and intellectual achievement, finding meaning in an uncertain world. Literature explores fundamental human questions about meaning, value, identity, morality, helping you think about these questions with depth and nuance. In a world where certainties are questioned and the meaning feels elusive, literature provides frameworks for meaning making and thoughtful engagement with life's complexities. Now let's move to the final reflection. The 20th century novel teaches us that stories matter not just for entertainment, but for understanding ourselves, our societies, and our possibilities. In mastering this material, you've developed not just acknowledgement of specific texts, but skills and sensibilities that will serve you throughout life. You've learned to read critically, think complexly, write persuasively, and appreciate human creativity and diversity. Carry these capacities forward, continue to engage with literature's challenges and rewards. The novels we've studied will remain with you, growing richer with time and offering new insights as your own experience deepens. Thank you for your engagement, curiosity, and intellectual courage throughout this journey. You've worked hard to develop sophisticated literary understanding, use these capacities well to think critically about the world, to emphasize across differences, to appreciate beauty and complexity, to find meaning to uncertain times, and to imagine and create better futures. Thank you. This concludes our comprehensive exploration of the 20th century novel. You now have both broad understanding of the century's literary landscape and deep knowledge of specific major works. You understand how historical forces shaped literary innovation, how major movements responded to modernistic challenges, what themes preoccupied writers across the century, and what techniques they developed to represent consciousness and democratic society. You've developed the critical reading skills, enabling sophisticated textual analysis, analytical writing skills for constructing persuasive interpretations, and appreciation for literature's aesthetic, intellectual, and social significance. Most importantly, you've engaged deeply with some of humanity's most significant artistic achievements, working that have shaped how we understand consciousness, identity, society, and meaning itself. The 20th century novel transformed literature permanently. Its innovations became permanent additions to narrative possibility. Its inclusion of diverse voices permanently expand whose perspectives count as significant. Its psychological depth permanently changed how we understand human interiority. Its social critics contributed to progressive social change. These works remain alive, continuing to speak to readers, offering new insights, challenging assumptions, ensuring understanding, enriching understanding. They're not historical artifacts, but living texts that reward ongoing engagement. So, as you move forward, continue reading, continue questioning, continue allowing literature to challenge and enrich you. The journey through literature is lifelong. There is always more to discover, more perspectives to encounter, more depth to plumb in works you thought you understood. Thank you for your intellectual engagement throughout this course, your willingness to grapple with challenges and challenging texts, to think critically about complex issues, to develop sophisticated analytical capacities. This demonstrates intellectual seriousness and the curiosity that will serve you well in whatever path you pursue. The 20th century novel's legacy endures because the human concerns it explores endures. As long as humans seek meaning, questions identity, critic injustice, and try to understand consciousness and society, these novels will remain relevant and valuable. Go forward as thoughtful, critical, empathetic readers who understand the literature's power to eliminate human existence and imagine human possibility. The skills you've developed, critical thinking, complex analysis, empathetic understanding, clear communication, will serve you throughout your lives. Thank you, and may you continue to find joy, meaningful, and insight in literature throughout your lives.